The Magic Mike Show, where you hear the experts speak. The Magic Mike Show. Tune into the show every week. The Magic Mike Show. You can trust the show is the bomb because it's being brought to you by RacingDudes.com.
What's up, everybody? Mike Somich here. We got a special guest today. Since we're going to Oaklawn, we figured we'd bring in the man, the myth, the legend, Aaron Halterman himself. Aaron, how's it going, buddy?
Great introduction. I love it. It's going great after this. Listen, it's going to be fun, man. You brought in the Oaklawn guy. I will be there for these races, so that'll be kind of cool to watch the ticket come in there live. You don't get that very often anymore. I feel like you're watching from home all the time. So, yeah, excited to be here, man. And I think we have a sequence that is interesting. Let's say that.
Yeah, it is interesting. Obviously, the Rebel going to be the key race here. Grade 2, $1.25 million on the line there. A bunch of 3-year-olds running in that one. Timberlake, the return here is going to be the big story there. Interesting what you're going to do with that horse. I'm excited to talk about that race specifically. But before we do it, let's talk about the sequence as a whole. How many favorites are going to win on Saturday? Because there's going to be at least 4 heavy favorites in the 5 races.
I think 2.
You're going to go 2.
I think 2. Yep.
I'm scared it could be 3. I don't think all 4 will win. No. In the first race, really, there's 2 clear horses that you're deciding from, and then do you want to use prices around them or not? I have a feeling the last race could be won by a favorite, which I think you're going to agree with me on that one. I'm not a big Timberlake fan, though. Are you a big Timberlake fan?
Not really, but we'll talk about that race when we get there. I was very curious how you're going to handle the 2 Brad Cox horses in the stakes races. So I think that'll be a fun discussion. But your question, Timberlake, no, I'm not really a fan. Who am I a fan of in that race? Nobody, really.
Yeah, that was kind of my problem. I am 100% let's fade the crap out of Justin Timberlake here. And it was hard to figure out who I was going to fade it with. So we'll see what happens when we get there. Before we do it, though, Saudi Cup coming up this weekend. Full field of 14. I know the horse that I used to love, that you now love, is in that race. It's a phenomenal race, to be honest. Like, every single older male that you really would want there is there. Who are you going with in the Saudi Cup?
I went with Barrio. Yeah, your boy. You started him, and then you left him, and when he got a good trainer, and then I hopped on. So it's weird. Now, listen, I think this is a big-time challenge for him. But really, though, 1 1/8 going 1 turn, oddly enough, that's what it is. That really should be right up his alley. So I think he's going to run pretty big. To me, dude, I mean, if he keeps running these races like he has been the last 2, I think he's a little bit better in the field. But this is a tough spot, and you just never really know how they're going to run when they go overseas. But I'm on Barrio once again.
And so we talked about the Japanese horses a bunch last year and a bunch heading into this race. We've got 2 in this spot, including Ushba Tesoro, who I liked a little bit when we saw him last. Do you think either Japanese horse has a shot at winning the race?
Big time. I like Dermasotogate quite a bit in this one. I almost picked him to win it. Ushba Tesoro, I was on the fence with, but Dermasotogate, I think he's the real deal. You look how he ran at the Breeders' Cup, man. It felt like he was going to get to Wida Barrio there at one point. That was off a long layoff. I think he's going to be loaded for a pretty big race. And the one thing you got to pause with Japan horses, and we've seen this, right? Sometimes it's the one you don't see coming that wins these big races. And they've got a couple other ones in there to keep an eye out as well. So you got to respect them. I like Dermasotogate the best.
I'm still on the Ushba train. I think Ushba's going to run big here. We'll see what happens. I have not actually picked the race yet. I probably will end up betting it, though, because it is a great betting race. And if you want to go against National Treasure, if you want to go against Wida Barrio, you're going to get a price from pretty much anybody else.
Yep. No, there's no doubt about it. And, National Treasure is 8-1 on that morning line. There's no way that's going to stick, though. But even if you like him, you're probably going to get an okay-ish price, right? So there's a lot to like. I mean, a whole lot to like about this race as far as betting goes.
All right, that's enough Saudi Cup talk. Let's head over to Oaklawn, home of the fabulous turf racing in Arkansas. We got late pick 5 to cover, including the Grade 2 Rebel Stakes. It off here with the $150,000 carousel stakes going 6 furlongs on the turf, field of 9 headed postward. And when I look through this, to me, this was one of those where I was either going to go with the 7 or the 8. And I went back and forth quite a bit here. I know you landed You and I are quite different here. We'll just put it that way. Where did you end up on top?
Yeah, this is going to be a very tough race here. I put the 8 Zeitlos on top in this spot for Steve Asmussen. Listen, I think when you look at Asmussen, he's got Gaffleone riding a bunch here. He is one of the top jockeys that actually stayed. So I went with the 8 on top. I went with the favorite in this spot here. We're on 2 races in a row. Last time out at Oaklawn looked pretty sharp. But, yeah, we're moving up. We'll see what happens. But I think the 8 is a must play for me. I put him on top. Her, I guess, on top, I should say.
I don't think the 7 or the 8 loses. I think it's one of the two. And I went back and forth on which one to put on top. And I knew I was going to single this race pretty much from the jump, just because I saw those 2 horses as kind of the 2 clear horses in this spot. And I wanted to be able to spread later because I think some of those favorites are a little bit more vulnerable. And I like some prices around them a little bit more. This was kind of similar to the Rebel in a way where it's like, if it's not one of those 2, who is it? And I struggled with that question. So I ended up singling Mucho Macho Girl here in this spot. I love the progression that we've seen from her since she started running late in her 3-year-old season into her 4-year-old season. Bred beautifully. It's Mucho Macho Man out of a Tappet mare and started to really deliver the last 2. There's a bunch of question marks here, right? So what's the pace going to look like? Where is she going to sit? Definitely 2 of the bigger question marks. And then the jump up in class. That's the real big one here. It's the first time she's facing Stakes Company. Last 2 were Fairgrounds. Now she's shipping to Oaklawn. What will she make with the track? But I think that if she's able to improve off those last 2 starts, that she is as good as anybody in this race. And to me, the 8 horse, Zolitos, really the only one I'm all that afraid of. And I think she's got the jump on Zolitos. I don't think there's a ton of speed in here. I think you're going to see the 4 Backyard Money go to the lead. But I think the 7 Mucho Macho Girl sits a pretty nice trip right outside of her. And if that's the case and Mucho Macho Girl can get to the front, I'm going to hope that that she can hold off Zolitos here.
Yeah, I used the 7 as well. I did not single, obviously, but I did use the 7. 2 really good races in a row, and you pointed it out. Should have the pace advantage in this spot over the 8. I do agree with that. I'm a little concerned about singling Dallas Stewart. That's kind of where my pushback for you would be there. Yeah. But look, this horse has proven to be pretty darn good. It's a good spot. It's a very logical spot, so I'm with you. The 7 is one I used as well. So, but yeah, single, man. You're gonna know pretty quick whether you can turn off Oaklawn for the day or not.
Well, we're not going to lie here. That was part of the goal, right? We'll know right away whether or not we got to watch the next 4. Actually, well, I'm excited about watching the next 3 races. The last one I think leaves a little bit to be desired, but we'll get there eventually. Now, you ended up going 4 deep here. The horse that you have, so I was 7-8. Those are my top 2 horses. So I agree with you on the 8 is the next horse there. We're flipped there. The one of the horses that you used would have been on my ticket. That's the 3. Let's Be Clear. You ended up 4 deep in this race. Was it the 1 or the 3 that you had in third?
I actually have the 1 in third. I kind of like this horse on the rail here for Diodoro. What is it? Adeline Julia? This is a horse that, ran in the mud last time out in a stakes race. I think it back on the fast track is going to help this horse. A lot of it for me, when it's Diodoro on a big day at Oaklawn with a price, I don't leave him off because I've been beaten so many times by this guy with stupid horses that didn't really make a lot of sense. But it just seems like on the big days at tracks like Oaklawn, Diodoro's around. Torres is going to ride here. He usually does ride for him. Listen, I think the 1 makes a ton of sense in this spot from the connection standpoint. Yeah, you do look at the form. You go, well, she's going to have to improve a little bit. It's kind of the specialty of Diodoro to get him to improve. So I think it's going to happen here. I had the 1 for the connections. And then the 3, Let's Be Clear. I can totally see why you like this horse. I think if there is a pace meltdown, the 3 is the clear horse to pick in this spot. 2 races back, came from way out of it and got the job done. And then last time out, ran okay. Got beat by 5 3/4, just maybe got a little too far behind, but still made that move. And she's going to make that move every time. So that's kind of why I threw the 1 and 3 in there as prices around the 7 and the 8.
Now, the 3, Let's Be Clear, last 2 races in the slop, that concern you at all? Looks like we're actually going to have a fast track here on Saturday.
Yeah, finally going to have a fast track at Oaklawn. No, it doesn't, because she does have some fast dirt wins on that resume as well. So no, it doesn't really bother me all that much. She seems to be pretty consistent no matter what kind of surface, track, etc. She usually shows up. So, and that's a big thing that's going to be a theme, I think, throughout, though. Sloppy track the last 2 times, pretty much at Oaklawn for everybody that ran. And now we're actually going to get, it's going to, believe it or not, it's going to be 70 degrees and the sun's going to be out and the track is going to be dry.
I actually checked the weather for this weekend just to see, because it's supposed to be sunny today, sunny tomorrow. This is going to be a fast Oaklawn track, something we haven't seen in a while on these big days.
It's nuts. In February, this is like so rare. It's unbelievable.
Now I got one horse. So if I had decided to single the last race, which was the race I almost singled instead, I would have been 3 deep here, and I would have used the 7. I would have left the 8 off because of my general style. I don't want to use the 2 favorites, especially when they're that short of prices. The 3 would have been on the ticket. The 5 horse Sarah Harper would have been on the ticket as well. 30-1 here, second off a layoff. Am I crazy to think she's got a shot?
Nope, you're not crazy at all. We've seen her kind of run big races against similar type of company before. So I wouldn't be shocked if she runs a big one. And look, Ron Moquette, for very, very different than usual, he has been cold at Oaklawn Park. That's not going to last. This is his home track. He's going to heat up. He's won with this horse before, like I said, second off the layoff. We're getting Ramon Vasquez back today. I don't think this horse is going off at 30-1, but I don't think she's impossible. You see Moquette win with horses like this, right?
Yep.
I didn't use her. You didn't use her. If she wins the race, there's going to be a text message between the two of us going, we knew it, right?
Yeah, a lot of expletives. And it's interesting because if you look through her form, and this is kind of why she's 30-1, right? Last race in the slop wasn't great. 3 races before that, all on turf, and then you go back to the Oaklawn form, and you're like, wait a second, like the poinsettia, that fits, that runs right with the rest of this field, and she's 30-1, and you can make pretty good excuses as to why to get back to that point. I think the big question is she still that horse, right? And the workouts aren't great, and you're going back over a year. Like that to me is the biggest question with her.
Yeah, and I don't know the answer to it. The one thing I will say, we've seen Moquette win with older horses. I mean, Whitmore always comes to mind, and it does kind of seem like at times it might take a race or two to kind of get them back in their top form. So there are reasons to think she's going to improve. How much improvement? Will it be enough improvement? I'm not sure about that.
Yeah, so we'll interesting start to the pick 5 here. I'm singling the 7 Mucho Macho Girl. Aaron going 4 deep with the 2. The 1, the 3, the 7, and the 8. Let's head over to race number 9, the Honeybee Stakes, $400,000 purse for fillies, grade 3 here. Fillies, 3-year-old fillies, actually, grade 3. Going a mile and 16th on this course. We've got the short finish line in play here at Oaklawn. Aaron, we'll kick it off with you. Who'd you put on top here?
I'm going to go West Omaha on top. I just feel like she's just a little bit better than the rest of this field, to be honest. I thought the race last time out at Fairgrounds, she really showed us who she was. I thought that was an excellent start. We scratched out of that Fairgrounds race last week to come run in this one, and to me, it looks like a very, very good choice. I feel like she is pretty solid in this race compared to how she would have looked in the last race last week. So I'm going to go with West Omaha on top. I think she makes a ton of sense.
Yeah, I put her on top as well. Do you put anything into the fact that Cox had 3 in that race and that he wanted to leave Alpine Princess and Tarafa, your eventual winner of that race, in there and thought the West Omaha was the best of 3 in center here? Because that's kind of the thinking that I came up with when I went through this.
Yeah, I think that does make sense. I think logically that makes sense. Although, when you go to the male side of things, the Colts, he did a really weird thing, taking an Oaklawn winner and an Oaklawn-based horse to the Risen Star for a third of the purse when he would have been 6-5 for the Rebel that we'll talk about later for $1 million and $1.25 million. But that's for another discussion, I guess. But yeah, it could definitely be what you just said. My only kind of pause is she's a bit inconsistent, and that's why I didn't want to go like all or nothing with her. There's, her race 2 back at Fairgrounds really wasn't very good, and it could happen again.
Yeah, I liked her that day in the Untappable, and I was pretty disappointed with the effort there. She looked great next out, but not really sure who she beat in that race. And this one definitely came back a little bit tougher here. We both ended up 4 deep. We both used the same 4 horses. We both put the 6 on top here. I went a little off the board. I put the 4, Neon Beach in second year, Steve Asheson and Omaha Beach filly. Hammer drop $210,000 for Giant Causeway mare. I really liked the race 2 back. I thought she ran better in the year's end than it actually looked. I kind of threw out the Martha Washington in a way for a lot of these horses, like no interest in Band of Gold. We'll get to that one in a second. To me, Noah Beach kind of ran the best of that race and just kind of got unlucky to not be able to win. Did you have the 4 in second as well?
Yes, I put the 4 in second, and I almost picked the 4 to win, and you kind of said everything that needs to be said about it. I'm 100% with you on this. I really like the 4 in this spot, Neon Beach, and it was just a situation. Last time out, it was an oddly ran race, but she still did okay. I like this horse quite a bit. I think this is one at 8-1 that makes a ton of sense. I think she can be an upsetter. She can start to juice up the sequence. So yeah, I did have the 4 in second.
I like it. Who'd you have in third?
The third, I did put the 2 Band of Gold in third. Listen, it was a pretty good race last time out. I know it was in the slop, but you kind of look at this field. There seems to be a lot of pace on paper. I do think the 2 can come closing. So I used the 2 on the ticket too. I had her in third.
Yeah, I misspoke. I went 3 deep here. I didn't use the 2. And for the main reason, the price. That to me was the biggest thing. Last time out, Band of Gold wins at 24-1. That was the wedding. Now we're 2-1 on the morning line. Kind of feels like the funeral version of it.
Yeah.
And you mentioned that race set up like perfectly for her as well. Now, she looked good winning, so I don't want to take too much away from her in that sense, but it was a monster jump up over to the slop. Do you have some concern that the slop was the reason she moved forward, or do you think that you're going to get a similar effort?
1,000%. I think it was a slop. Yeah, I think that was the big part of it. And I was kind of ready to go against her until, I don't know, the more I looked at this, I thought, boy, there's a lot of speed in this race. And one thing we know about McPeak horses, they're going to just, most of them, 90% of them are just going to drop out of it and then make one run, right? I mean, that's kind of the strategy with his horses. So when you think about that, you think, okay, well, if it does melt down,
yeah,
who's going to win it? Probably the 2. So yeah, I did debate throwing her out. She's kind of the one that's like, yeah, it does make sense to try to beat a little bit of a shorter price there. But end of the day, I do think there is a world where she can win it.
And we both used the one Alley's Beach here. For me, this was really just a comeback play for Tom Amos. Is a horse who I thought was really good last year, looked great on debut, winning at Saratoga. Just didn't run very well in the spin-away. If you go back and looked at it, she lost a lot of ground midway through that race and then kind of came running up. Not really sure what she was doing on the lead in the Alcibiades. I thought that was interesting. But now we're coming back here at Oaklawn. And I like the fact that we're jumping right into the Honeybee, that we're not running a prep first. It tells you that Alley's Beach probably ready to roll up. Rue takes them out for Amos. You use this one as well. What did you like about Alley's Beach?
Yeah, you said it. I liked this horse last year. I thought she was pretty good. I gave her a halfway chance in that Alcibiades, and she ran okay. She just got beat by a better horse that day. But I think this is a really good spot. I think it's a spot that makes sense. So I thought she had a really nice shot off the comeback. You kind of look at how she's been training, pretty steady. Three workouts back, had a bullet out of 84, 2 workout back, a 4 out of 34. So she's sharpened up and ready. And she's another one, and I totally agree. I don't know why we're on the lead in the Alcibiades. If we can sit where we sat, 2 back and 3 back, and kind of let the speed go and just kind of tuck in, why can't this horse close in and win it?
Yeah, I feel like the 10-1 morning line's a pipe dream as well. I don't think that we end up seeing anywhere near 10-1, probably somewhere 4 or 5-1, somewhere in that range. We mentioned last race Sarah Harper, 30-1 at a bomb. If there was a bomb here, since we're taking all horses that, Alley's Beach 10-1, but probably not going to be. If you take someone in the double digits, who wouldn't surprise you or shock you if they win the race?
Oh, it's got to be Diodoro with Honor Cat, right? What if Honor Cat's just galloping down the center of the track? I could totally see it. Last time out, broke the maiden right here at Oaklawn and did it pretty easily. So, I mean, I don't think this horse is going to win, but I would not be shocked if I left this one off. I would be very, very upset. If she wins, I left it off, I'd be upset.
I would go with the other Diodoro, the 10, Midshipman's Dance, who's looked good coming from off the pace at 6 furlongs, now stretches out to 2 turns for the first time, but I wouldn't be shocked if it's the 3 either. It feels like if there's an upset, it's going to be Diodoro who's behind it.
Yeah. No, I mean, and again, I can't stress enough on these big days. He'll lose with the favorite, and then he'll win with one of these 10 to 12-1 shots, and you'll be like, oh, I hate this guy.
Yeah, it is interesting to see there. West Omaha gets Christian Torres' services, one of the better jockeys there at Oaklawn. Last rode both of the Diodoros, ends up on West Omaha, but that's not a surprise. I mean, clearly she is the class of the field. That's where anyone would like to end up had they been offered the ride.
Absolutely. Yeah, I wouldn't worry about that much. And like I said, Cox did a smart thing there. Most of the jockeys are in Saudi, so lock up Torres. He's been fantastic. That was smart.
All right, let's jump over to the 10th race here. We got the $600,000 Razorback Handicap, 4-year-olds and up, grade 3, another mile and 16th race on the dirt. I thought this one was difficult to say the least. Aaron, who'd you put on top here?
Yeah, this is a mess. First of all, the 4 Ain't Life Grand is going to scratch out of this race. I can confirm that. It's a situation where they're going to run an allowance the next day. They didn't think that allowance was going to actually fill, so that's why they entered the Razorback. They always wanted to go to allowance. He's coming off of the layoff. So with him out, it does become just really tricky. And there's just so many ways you can go for this race. So many different horses kind of look the same. Man, I debated. I went number 5 Octane on top. I don't absolutely love it, obviously. But, we're coming in here. We ran pretty well last time out. I kind of think this horse, they're just going to try to get him towards the front, and I think he will kind of keep running and stay on. So I went with the 5 on top. I almost also went with the 8 Magic Tap. Those were the two I was between. So obviously I'm going to use them both. I went 5-8 here. With Magic Tap, it was just kind of he ran pretty well last time out. We're getting the serious, quote unquote, serious jockey aboard with Gaffleone. Maybe he's ready for a big effort, but this is kind of a mess.
It is kind of a mess. I did not use the 5 at all. Last race in Stakes Company, and the other stakes race where he's been really competitive was Restricted Company. When he's been in Open Company, he's struggled a little bit, and I didn't love the price. Alvarado's a pretty good in traded stakes race. He's got a $4.44 ROI. I did put the 8 Magic Tap on top. This is one where they thought highly of this horse in the 3-year-old season, saw him in the Pennsylvania Derby, ran decent to Saudi Crown there. Last race I thought was pretty impressive, first off the bench. Now they go to Gaffleone here, second off the bench, has tactical speed, which I think is a benefit here. If there's a ton of speed in this race, or multiple horses that want the front, I think that you're going to see a nice trip here for Magical Tap sitting just off it. Now, we agreed on 2 horses in here, and we both ended up 4 deep. We both had the 3 speed bias on the ticket. He was the last horse in for me. Do you want to talk about 3 speed bias?
Oh, boy. This horse right here.
It's a mess, man.
He is you said it. He finds ways to lose races where he looks like he is home, or he's going to get there, or however you want to describe it. This horse, add up all of the links he's lost by in some of these close races, he's like 2 links away from being a big time horse. So definitely a millionaire type of horse. He can't finish the job, but my God, you look at this race and it's like, how does he lose? Well, he lost to a couple of these horses last time in an allowance where he was 3-5. So
yep.
One of these races he's going to win, because it's like the luck of the draw. Like, he's losing by a head, by a neck, by a nose. It's like one of these days, the wire's just going to come where his nose is down, right? It has to. So I threw him on there against my better judgment.
Yeah, you have to. Eventually, he will win, but you don't love the 1 for 10 that he is last year, and then the 0 for 1 so far this year. Like you said, 3-5 last time out against some of these horses. Should be definitely part of the early pace. We'll see if he's able to go gate to wire in there. My second horse, my other must use here, the one horse Seize the Night. I was surprised you didn't include this one. This is kind of that same theory here where we get second out as a 5-year-old. The horse ran well last time out, and I think this horse just likes the fast dirt much more than he likes the off dirt. Sloppy last time, muddy 2 times ago. Now we're back to fast dirt. 4 for 9 in his career over a fast surface. 0 for 5 with the second and the third. However, those races came more recently. So it makes me feel like this horse is consistently improving. And now we get to fast dirt, and we're going to see the best effort that we're going to see from Seize the Night. I think the pace sets up beautifully for this horse. Should sit a really nice ground-saving trip on both turns. So I put Seize the Night on at 6-1. You didn't use the 1, huh?
No, I did not use the 1. Don't hate it, but I did not use the 1 in this spot. I don't know. This is such an odd race. Horses like Seize the Night and Magic Tap and Octane, all these horses we've talked about, speed bias, can actually win it. You wouldn't think a $600,000 race we would be talking about these horses and make logical cases for, but you can, right? Yeah. So, in one regard, I'm going to go, I just don't think this horse is good enough to win a grade 3 race like this. But in the next regard, and you do have to kind of pause a little bit, you go, well, this race sucks. So, yeah, he is good enough to win a sucky stakes race.
I mean, when was the last time we had a handicap that was for this much money and no horse was carrying 120? None of them are carrying 120 pounds. Like, it's crazy to think about that.
It really is an embarrassing card in a lot of ways, as much as I hate to say that about a track that I love and I'm going to drive 4.5 hours to be at. But these horses just aren't very good. And listen, Ain't Life Grant is the morning line favorite in the race, right? He's an Iowa, and again, I love Ain't Life Grant. He's my favorite horse. He's an Iowa bred coming off a 231-day layoff. His trainer hasn't won any races at Oaklawn this year. And the last time we saw him, he got beat by Giant Game, and he's the favorite in this race. So it shows you the morning line maker was like, I have no idea what to do here.
Yeah, and I have no idea what these horses are going to go off at. I think the 8 will go off as the favorite. Outside of that, I'm not sure kind of where all of these odds end up falling. Fourth horse on for me here, the 11 Notary. I like the last 2 races, and this horse likes to win, and that's something you can't say about a lot of these horses. He's 8 for 34 lifetime. Last in 2023, he was 5 for 10. He's 1 for 2 this year with a second as well. I thought the last race was really good. This is a horse who's been successful on the slop, who's been successful on the fast track, so not too worried about that, and just been consistently improving since switching barns. So I'm hoping we can take another step forward here with Notary, who was 10-1. The other horse I looked at was the Donnie Von Hemel horse here, ballsy on the outside. Should I be playing this horse? You're the Von Hemel expert here. Does the 13 have a shot?
I don't think so.
No? Okay.
They haven't told me anything good about him. So
all right.
So now that is Donnie's horse, not Kelly's. And so, sometimes I don't hear everything about Donnie's horses, but I think you're okay. I think
all right.
Okay.
That was the one horse I was worried about. So I'm going to end up 4 deep here. I'm going 1, 3, 8, 11. Aaron going 4 deep as well. He's going 2, 3, 5, 8. All right, it's time. Excited to talk about this race. We'll probably won't be as excited to watch it, but we got the Grade 2 $1.25 million Rebels Stakes feature on the card. Got a bunch of Kentucky Derby points on the line. Big talk's going to be here, Timberlake. I did not use Timberlake. Am I crazy?
No, you're not crazy.
So you're lukewarm at best. So who do you have on top?
I have Timberlake on top.
Okay. So I'm a little crazy then.
No, I don't think so.
Okay. So why do you like Timberlake?
Because there isn't anything else to like.
Okay. I mean, that's fair. That's fair. I like this. I wasn't a big fan of Timberlake when he won the Champagne. Wasn't a big fan of Timberlake when he won at Ellis. Didn't use Timberlake in the Hopeful. So for me, this is a horse I've kind of faded for a while. Are we sure the Breeders' Cup Juvenile was any good? Like, that's the next question that comes up. And is this horse just going to be bet because of that race?
Well, he's going to be bet because of the Champagne in that race, and he's also going to be bet because this is, at least going in, it's got to be one of the worst. It is the worst Rebel I've ever seen. Like, I'll just say that. And again, going in, maybe something crazy will happen and a horse will blossom, but what is there to see? What is there to beat? That's just it. Like, I'm a bigger fan of Timberlake than you are, obviously.
Yeah.
But if like Muth was here, there's no way Timberlake would even be on my ticket, right? Like if Sierra Leone was here, or if honestly, I would probably put Hall of Fame over Timberlake. Like there are horses, a lot of horses that I would rather play than him, but you just look through this field and it's like this is garbage.
Yeah, it's quantity over quality in this year's Rebel. Since we do have 13, they're supposed to be at a postword. Makes it for an interesting sequence here. I'm going to make some people happy in the chat.
Okay.
I put the one horse, Carbone, on top. I think this is just a wild overreaction to what we saw last time, where this horse tried to press the pace and just completely collapsed in a race that, in my mind, completely collapsed. And now we get this horse back on the rail, 15-1 for Asmussen. I think Carbone is as good a shot as anybody in here, and we're getting a 15-1 price. I'm willing to take a little bit of a shot on top.
I don't hate that at all. I don't think he's going to win because I don't have him on the ticket. I'll say that. I don't think it's the worst thing. If he's 9-5 to win the Southwest, you draw a line through it and go, okay, well, he can win this one. Here's what I hated about him. Yeah, I mean, he definitely had an excuse because he got into a pace tool with a stablemate. Brilliant job, by the way, to get here. Anyway, I'm not going to get into that. I hated that he just completely fell off the map. Like, I would have loved if he'd at least kind of ran on and maybe get beat 8 or 9, but to get beat 21 3/4, it kind of showed me it's like, yeah, he's not great. So he didn't really want to go that distance, maybe. The other problem I had with him, it's like, God, it seems like there's a lot of speed in this race too,
Yeah, that is my biggest concern with putting him on top, is that it's a speed issue. Now I'm hoping that because he drew the rail, that actually gives him an advantage over the rest of the speed. And we see one of those classic situations where everyone sees this ton of speed on paper. The one who has no choice but to go goes, and then you have a couple horses who decide, hey, we want to be close, but we don't want to press it too much. And then all of a sudden they're 2 and 3 wide in the turn, and Carbone has a clear length lead when we get to the top of the backstretch and can slow it down a little bit. We'll see if it actually plays out that way, but that's the mental image of this race I put in my head when I was picking this horse on top.
No, it's fair. We talked about it on a couple of shows today, and it's like if I'm Castillo, just send as absolutely as hard as you can and get his position, because that's the only way you're going to win. You've got to get position. You got to get the lead. And if he gets out there and he gets brave, it's not impossible that he's pretty good and he'll go win that race. I thought he could do it last time. Obviously, that was a really good call.
Didn't work out so well.
At all, but oh well.
I did put the 11 Just Steal in second here. I'm pretty lukewarm about this opinion, but I went 4 deep. I don't love anybody in here. I took some shots with prices outside of the 11, but I thought Just Steal ran pretty well last time in the Southwest, was close to that pace, ended up running second, beat everybody except for Mystic Dan, who I don't think is very good, but this field is not very good either. We know that Dwayne likes to run in a bunch of races. We've seen this horse run a bunch. Won a stakes at Churchill. That was at 6 furlongs. I thought the Smarty Jones wasn't a bad race. I like Catching Freedom. So for me, that at least is a positive here for Just Steal. I put the 11 in second. Did you use the 11?
I didn't.
I just love this race for us.
I just couldn't. Oh, it's one, like I said, it's one of the all-time worst. He's not very good. He's really not. I mean, he tries, right? And that's a good thing about him, but he kind of looks to me like one of those horses that somebody will beat him, somebody will get him every time. I will say this for him. He's got to be a tough horse as much as he runs, and he's pretty consistent, minus a couple there at the end of his 2-year-old year, middle of his 2-year-old year. He's pretty consistent. I think he'll round the corner with a chance. I don't think he'll be able to hold him off. So I left him up. I also think, and I'll see if you agree with this or not, he's going to be the one everybody gravitates to first after Timberlake. Like, he's a clear second. I'm afraid he's going to take too much money.
I think Timberlake's going to be like 3 to 5. Like, I think Timberlake's going to take all the money in this spot. 3 to 5 is probably aggressive. We'll call it 4 to 5 even money, somewhere around there, which is ridiculous in a 13-horse field for a horse that has not started since November. And there's, to me, a bunch of question marks about it. It's the reason why I'm not using Timberlake here. It's one of those, like, do I want to use the favorite defensively in a 13-horse field when I think he's going to be way over bet? No. Then that's why I'm off him. It sounds like you're kind of feeling the same way with Just Steal, where it's like, hey, do I want to have Timberlake and then the second choice in a field of 13 horses where I think he's going to be way over bet? And the answer to that is no as well.
Yeah, exactly. I went 3 deep and I said, okay, you're using Timberlake or Just Steal. You're not using both of them, right? Yeah. I'm just not going to do it. I have a single in the last leg. So I was like, all right, I can get kind of creative. And I trust Timberlake more than I trust Just Steal. So I used him, and then I used the 2 and the 6 as my other 2. I think Dymatic, out of all the Asmussens, he gets Gaffleon, the 6 horse. I just feel like, okay, they must think this horse is, getting better, is the one that kind of our best chance, so to speak. So I used him, and then I used McPeak with Northern Flame, the 2, just because good race last time out. Maybe this horse is getting a little bit better as well. So 2, 6, 7, and hate all 3 of them.
I use the 6 Dymatic as well. I don't hate this one. I think this one makes a lot of sense logically. 8 to 1, decent price. Going to be interesting to see what this horse goes off at. I thought this might be the one that took money out of everybody because it is Gaffleon, it is Asmussen. Clearly, they believe this horse is going to take a step forward in this spot. Broke its maiden last time out over the slop. I mean, I think the horse wants a slop. I think the horse pretty much wants any surface, though. It's a gun runner out of a Tappet mare, so really well bred here. Homebred for Winchell thoroughbreds. I think the 6 run's pretty big. I think it's interesting we're adding blinkers, a move that Asmussen's 15% for, so we'll see if that's able to help. Also gets to drop 4 pounds from that maiden special weight win, so we'll see if that makes a difference. But you're really betting on the come here with Dymatic and hoping we get that 8 to 1 price and it doesn't fall too short. I went all the way to the outside, and I went to a little bit of a crazy one here. Time for Truth, the 13. Marquette. We got Bejarano up. I'm wondering if Carbone doesn't go to the lead if the 13 can take him gate to wire. And that's the entire reason I'm playing this horse. I thought both of the 2 sprint races were very good. Was in a stakes race last time, lost to Valentine Candy, but I thought ran well in that spot. And you mentioned with the one, how with Carbone, how you didn't like that the horse quit. This horse got beat and just absolutely fought after that and was able to hold off everybody else in that race. I don't know if we can stalk, which is why it's the horse 15-1, because if this horse was able to stalk and pounce, I think that Time for Truth would be pretty dangerous in this spot. We'll see what happens from a pace perspective, and where this horse sits on the first turn is going to tell you whether or not he's in it. But I'm going 4 deep here. I'm trying to beat Timberlake. I'm going to use kind of what I consider a little bit crazy of a price and the horse all the way outside in Time for Truth.
Yep. No, I don't hate it. Definitely. You look at the breeding for this horse, Omaha Beach out of a Looking at Lucky mare. So, I mean, it's weird that this horse hasn't went 2 turns yet, but kind of an old school kind of thing, going 2 sprints to a route. I mean, that is something that, a lot of solid trainers will tell you to do. So you could be ready for a big race. I hate the draw. But listen, like you said, if he blows out of there and gets to the lead, the draw all of a sudden becomes no problem because you're on the rail, in front.
This is a horse that's gone 22-45 in both of his races, right? And the one horse has gone 23-2, 47-4, right? So if you're looking at the 2 for pace, the 13 can get there if he wants to. Now the question is, can he slow it down? But if the 13 crosses on the 1, I would assume we're going to see a pretty slow second quarter because there's really no one else that's going to press the 13 if he's going out that fast except the 1.
Yep. No, you're right. And it could kind of get out there and control the narrative a little bit. And, Bejarano, he's very capable. He's not going to cost this horse. I wouldn't think. I better not say that because they all could cost a horse every race when they break. You never know. But, I trust him to kind of do the right thing by the horse here. So, listen, I think with Moquette, like I said earlier, he's been cold, but I wouldn't let that bother you too much. He can have hot streaks, and this is a horse that, like you said, he's pretty good. He got beat by a seasoned stakes winner last time out, but he's got talent. I would have loved to see him, maybe stretch out in an allowance and then be in this spot, but it is what it is, right? It's time to run, and they're going to take a shot with him.
Now, you mentioned you use the 2 Northern Flame as well. It's the horse that I looked at. It's another speed horse, probably projects to be right there with the 1 of the 13 is one of the horses that wants to be forwardly placed. Won last time, $100,000 optional N2L. That was first time Lasix. We're losing those because we're back in the stakes race. Where do you want this horse to sit? That was one of my biggest concerns with playing this horse because gate to wire last time, if you go back, you go through, the other win was also gate to wire at Churchill. His past horses, but doesn't pass horses and win. Now, did lose to Carbone, did lose to Timberlake, 2 horses that I think we both think are at least decent or the top tier in this race. What trip do you want for the 2 Northern Flame?
You tell me. I don't know. With these McPeak horses, you don't ever know what they're going to do, right? You just throw them on the ticket and pray. That's what he does. He just throws them in the entry boxes and prays, right? I mean, look, I think you see what he did last time out and you realize that's not happening in the spot. And if it does, and he's on the lead, they're going really fast and he's going to finish 80 lengths behind. So to me, I look at the race 2 back where he did make a nice close from basically last. I don't want him to be, I want him to be somewhere between the 2, sitting like 5th or 6th and maybe try to get first run. It makes me feel not really confident, but it makes me feel okay that he has dropped out of it in past horses before. Like he isn't a need the lead type. But yeah, I think kind of just take back, make a run from mid pack is probably the best bet for him.
It's I can tell by your tone of voice how enthusiastic you are about this Rebel after doing this with you for years.
I mean, it's just awful. And here it is, the second biggest race at my home track. And it's just to be honest, I'm more excited for Sunday than Saturday. So it's not good.
How many horses out of this field end up in the Kentucky Derby?
Well, it's a tough question because the winner of this race is going to get 50 points.
Yeah, 1 would be the easy answer. If I set it at 1.5, are you taking the over?
Yeah, because Just Steel's here, and I think if he's got 4 legs, he's going to be in the Derby. They're going to find a way,
Yeah, okay.
So I think it's 2. I think it's whoever wins, and I think it's Just Steel. But the thing is, we've got a great shot for a horse to go from 0 points to 50, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because if Timberlake doesn't show up and just deals kind of what I speculate he is, he's just going to hit the board type. Well, one of these other 11 have to win, Somich. Like, there's no way around it. So I don't know who that horse is going to be. Hopefully it's the 6 for both of us, I guess. But
Yeah.
If that's the case, then you're going to have one it's a win and you're in race, right? Essentially, so
This would be an interesting bet if they offered you Asmussen and Cox versus the field in this spot. Because that's about 50-50 based on the way the prices are, and it'd be an interesting way to look at it. I would probably take the field, even though I picked 2 Asmussen horses.
I think I would take the Asmussen Cox because you're getting a favorite and you're getting. I think the 6 is live. Well, you do too. We both think the 6 is live. You think the 1 can bounce back. I mean, you in that bet, you're also getting Carbone, who was 9-5 to win the last prep. So when you look at it like that, you probably take Asmussen and Cox.
I'd see it would be a good line though. That would be an interesting one to put out there.
Yeah.
Ron mentions here we're going to use the 4 a little bit here. That's Tajin Pass for Peter Miller. Any interest in the 4, who's a big number, 30-1 on the morning line?
I have no interest, but don't let me talk you off of it, because who else are you going to use? I mean, you could say, I'm going to use a horse that's not in the race. And I would say, yeah, he's got a shot. Like if the 4 wins the race, I'm not going to sit there and go, well, I'm just completely shocked. But he wasn't for me. I couldn't make a case for him.
It was pretty heavily bet last time out. It may have been the slop. We don't really know, although did win on a wet, fast track at Santa Anita. Another one that's probably going to be part of the pace. So I don't think Timberlake wins in a collapse. Is there any horse that if this thing just completely falls apart that you like?
Well, I think the 6 is the best answer for that. That's the logical one. Maybe the 3, Common Defense.
Okay. Yeah. The other McPeak. I mean, that wouldn't be that shocking.
Well, but my only problem with that is the pace collapsed the last time he was in this race, and he was 17 lengths behind. So
yeah,
it's like,
that's
what
fair.
the hell?
That's fair.
Yeah.
I mean, the other one that you could be like, well, maybe the 5, and you're like, well, wait a second. He was in that race too and finished 10th, lost by 27 lengths. So, yeah, I would say the 6, probably the most likely one if we do see an absolute collapse. All right, let's jump to the 12th race. Final race here, maiden special weight, 3-year-olds going 1 mile and 16th, $120,000 purse. And this is going to be your most singled horse in the sequence, I have a feeling. Aaron, tell us about the number 7, Crushed It.
Yeah, Crushed It's going to be my single, and I'm sure, I don't know. I don't know. They may single West Omaha. That's the thing. There's a lot of favorites you could single, but this could be the one for sure. Listen, I definitely think the 7, Crushed It's the horse to beat here. He's ran 2 races that are simply much better than anybody else that has started yet. So that's, point number 1. I do worry about the 2 a little bit. Give me a reason for Asmussen, but he really hasn't been that good at either start. Then you look at the first-time starters, right? You're okay. He's better than all the ones that have started, in your opinion. First-time starters. A Lucas horse that's 30-1 that isn't working very good at all. And then the 6 at 20-1 for PJ Song. These works look really slow as well. I think the 7's really logical. I think the 7 gets out in front and takes some gate to wire here. My only worry is the race, especially last time out. You can't lose that. You really can't lose that race. And that's the okay. On debut, you're going 6 furlongs. It's your first ever start. You get beat at neck. It's like, hey, I get it. Ran really well. The second race, how do you lose it? So again, that could happen. But again, I just think this horse. I just think he's better than the rest of this field.
Yeah, they lost by a neck in both those starts. Was at least 6 lengths ahead of third place. So clearly beat the rest of the field in both those. Just had someone who was able to come up and get him. Yeah, I can't do it. I mean, I like the horse. I'm gonna put Crush It on top. I can't single here though, just because there are 2 horses in here that I thought were at least interesting, and I'm going to go to the 2 horses on the rail. Give me the 1 horse Sicilian Defense. Sherry DeVoe trains this one. If you watch the show, you know I like Sherry DeVoe quite a bit. The horse got bet some in the first start. Was in the 10 post at Gulfstream. It's not easy to win going 6 furlongs from the 10 post in Gulfstream first time out. I thought ran okay anyway, didn't break great, was able to make a move, got up to 5th, and just kind of faded a little bit. I think you're going to see a horse that's a lot better second time out. And this is an Uncle Mo out of Giants Causeway. The distance should be a positive here for Sicilian Defense. So I think you're going to see a better break, and you're going to see Sicilian Defense closer. We'll see if he can get up there and get the job done, but I'm not like overly excited. However, I like the 1 and the 2. Give me a reason more than I like the horses that were in the other races that I looked at for singles here. So I ended up going 1, 2, and 7 in this spot. The 2 give me a reason. Steve Asmussen, first off, a long layoff. I thought the horse ran okay in both the first 2 starts, has shown speed, has been able to pass horses. We'll see what happens. I just want to try and beat the 7 in case the 7 loses by a neck again and just way over bet.
It does feel like the 1 is that horse that's going to beat
Sitting
the
on
7.
one.
Yeah, because it does seem in both the 7's races kind of got out there and just was kind of waiting for somebody. And then once that somebody came, he started running again and tried to get away from you. That's why I think you see those big margins back to the 3rd place finisher. Yeah, the 1, I like the 1 better than the 2, honestly. And I think your points on Sharita-Vo 100% right. And the stretch out is 100% right. I think he should get better. The kind of the flip side of it is, this horse just did not do any running in that debut race. You would have loved to have seen maybe this horse run a little bit better, run on a little bit. However, that's why you're getting 10-1. So, so I like it. If I was going to go too deep, I would add the 1.
The other horse I was a little interested in, the 10-horse Thousand Springs, who has been awful in both starts. Yep. However, it's the first time this horse isn't going to be on the rail. And I wonder if the rail was the problem for Thousand Springs in both those. It's a McPeak horse. You're getting the right price, 12-1 morning line. Brian Hernandez Jr. seems fit to ride. Did you look at the 10 at all?
I would hate if the 10-1 would totally just be pissed off but it is a McPeak special. Just didn't really do much, nothing going on. Kind of look at it and go, well, probably needs to drop down. And here we are again in another maiden special weight. So I did look at the horse. I just was like, yeah, I'll let the 10 beat me kind of thing.
Yeah. I mean, this is one of those races where, because I think you obviously single crushed it. I have crushed it on top. I didn't want to go too crazy here from a depth perspective and spend too much money in case of 7 is the horse that wins. All right, Aaron, appreciate you joining me for a little Oaklawn here. Let's run through the tickets here for everybody who's listening on the podcast. I'll kick it off here. I'm going to single the 7, then go 1, 4, 6 with 1, 3, 8, 11 with 1, 6, 11, 13 with 2, 1, 2, 7. That'll cost you $72 for 50 cents. Aaron, what do you got?
All right, I'm going to go 1, 3, 7, 8 with 1, 2, 4, 6 with 2, 3, 5, 8 with 2, 6, 7, and then I'm going to single the 7 in the last, $96.
All right, let's quick fantasy league update. Who do you think's going to win that thing? Because it's
not
a mess
me
right
and
now.
not you.
Yeah. I like just on the 3-year-old crop, because I've had a couple people like, hey, if you could bet 1 3-year-old to win it, who would you bet to win the Derby right now? I don't even know who I would possibly recommend, which is wild to be this far along in the trail. Look, Nisos is clearly the best 3-year-old in the country. I don't even want to hear the arguments against that one. Who do you think is like realistically someone you'd want to bet? Because I tell you, I'm not going to pick Sierra Leone to win the Derby. 100% will be not making that selection.
Yeah.
Unless it gets worse from where we are. But I don't think it will. I think there'll be someone who catches my eye before then. Where are you sitting right now from this Derby trail perspective?
No clue. Not I can't. I'm with you. I can't. I have to do a Derby video every week. And I literally said in this last video, this is a waste of time. But I'll have to do it again next week. And it'll be a waste of time.
Way to promote the Derby videos there.
There's just, because I'm honest. And it's just like, what do you really want me to say? Like Sierra Leone, everybody thought that Risen Star going into it was this loaded race. And it looked really good. I like even watching it live, I thought this isn't very good. Yeah. And then you watch it again, it's like, that wasn't good. I do think Sierra Leone's going to get better because that's just kind of the progression you can see happen with them. The trainer's done this before where they get progressively better leading up to the Derby. But the other flip side of it is he's a massive horse who's going to be 18th in the Derby and going to have to pass all the horses, either weaving in and out of traffic, which doesn't look like that's going to happen, or he's going to be 15 wide on the last turn. Does it sound familiar? Does it sound like a horse I bet last year? Yeah, kind of does. Kind of sounds like he's not an idiot like Tabit Trice, but he also is going to have that problem where he's a giant horse that's going to have to pass a bunch of horses. So you're right. It's like he's not exciting from a Derby perspective. I think he's a really good horse, though. Okay, well then where are you going? Do you want to bet Track Phantom after that? After setting a turtle pace and finishing second?
That was as bad as anything to me. It was so damning that he was not able to win that race, because it's like, look, man, you had everything your own way. And you mentioned, Sierra Leone has to go wide. He went wide. He was like 9 wide on that turn, and he still was able to run him down. To me, the key with Sierra Leone, you mentioned, it's a big horse and not an overly athletic horse, right? Mm-hmm. When you think about last year, Derby winner, very athletic, small horse who was able to weave in and out of trouble and beat Angel of Empire and beat Trap Tap at Trice 2 Holes multiple times in that race. And that's what won the race for him. We're not going to see that same thing from Sierra Leone, who's going to have to kind of come swinging wide to the outside. It shows you how wide open this is, that right now your favorite is Door Knock at 10-1. Fierceness 12-1, Lock 12-1, Crimson Light 18-1, Agate Road 25-1, Catching Freedom 25-1.
Oh, this is gross. It's gross.
You want Agate Road at 25-1, Aaron?
No, I wouldn't want Agate Road at 325-1, and I'm not exaggerating. Like
I don't disagree with you.
That Sam F. Davis was puke, and he still couldn't win from there. Locked is a horse I'm still interested in, but it's probably because we haven't seen him yet. And when we see him, we'll probably go, he's not very good, because that seems to be what's happening. I think Catching Freedom is an interesting horse, but he also is green. He doesn't run straight. He still has that problem. He's going to come from way out of it, but not quite as far out of it as Sierra Leone. But we're talking about a horse that got the jump on Sierra Leone and still couldn't beat him. It's weird because, like, I have Sierra Leone ranked number 1, but Jared was like, yeah, you got him number 1. Tell us why. I was like, well, there's nobody else.
Yeah. Where else am I going to put? Yeah. Who else am I going to put there?
Yeah.
Am I crazy that I want World of War back on dirt?
First World War? Yeah. No, you're not crazy. I don't think he's going to be good enough, dude, but I don't think you're crazy to want to try it.
I think his turf effort was as good as I've seen from anybody on the dirt so far. And I realize it's a turf effort and it's different, but if we could replicate it on the dirt, horse is legit.
Well, but I don't disagree. My problem is they tried it and he couldn't beat freaking Otello or whatever.
That race, that Mucho Macho Man was so weird, though. It was just a weird race. I would love for them to come out back in the Fountain of Youth just to take a shot, just to see. We'll see if it actually happens or not. Yeah.
No, I agree. It's definitely, if I had a colt that had a pulse, I would, and it was decent, I would try anything, because it's there to be won. But I don't know. I just keep thinking every week, okay, somebody is going to show us something. And I guess we did get it with Nisos. By the way, Nisos on my morning line would be like 3-5 right now against these horses. Like, he looks way the best. And again, how well will he stretch out as they keep going? Who knows? But
yeah, that'll be interesting. But to me, Catching Freedom, and I know Nick mentioned Catching Freedom down here.
Yeah,
I still am interested in Catching Freedom after that race, because he was goofy in that stretch. He had not figured it out yet, and if he can take that step forward, I think he's still legitimate. 25-1 is too short. That to me was the issue. Like, I would need like 50, 75-1, somewhere in that range if I was going to look at Catching Freedom seriously for a future ticket.
I like Catching Freedom quite a bit. I'm with you, but again, do you want a green horse for the Derby? No.
Well, you're assuming he takes a step forward in the next 2, right?
Well, that's just it. And that's the big key. We got one more prep in it. Well, 2 in some cases, but 1 for most of the big ones. If he straight, like Angel of Empire, for example, he was kind of weird at first, and they got him really figured out. And so you saw it twice in a row, and then you're like, okay, win or lose, I'm comfortable that he's going to run a race and not do something stupid in the Derby. And he did, and he ran well, right? That's what you want to see for it. I mean, if Catching Freedom is going to the right and going to the left again in his next race, well, you can have him for the Derby, Yeah.
Going to be an interesting, another 3 months until a little over 2 months, I guess, until we actually run the Kentucky Derby here. I'm excited right now, which I know you're the opposite of it, but all this, I shouldn't say you're not excited. All this is just playing into a bomb that's hopefully logical, winning the Kentucky Derby right now to me.
Yeah. No, I'm not. I'm excited still, because it's like we're just getting into it. It really has, the way trainers train these horses now, it really doesn't matter till these last ones. The way they point to certain things and they don't run these preps like they used to. those 100-point races are when it really starts anymore, which is kind of sad for those of us who like the 3-month progression, but that's just not reality anymore.
Yeah. Well, hopefully we'll find another mage in the rough here at some point so we can get a nice price home. Aaron, I know you've been sending videos to Sharp Money. Did you send one in today?
Yes, I did send one in today.
What's your play of the day?
Are you ready for this?
Yeah, let's do it.
I'm on the Blues tonight.
I actually I have the Blues as they play it today as well, although not not the play of the day. I
Don't
do
you
think
they should be favored tonight, and they're not.
Yeah, I had them minus 120 in my numbers, and they're minus 105 last I saw. Mm-hmm. So I took that 15-cent edge and played it. I played Minnesota laying 3.5 against Ohio State tonight. I think Ohio State bounces off that win against Purdue.
Yeah, no, I like that one. I think Minnesota just a better team, so that makes total sense to me. I kind of liked Nashville tonight at plus 130 in Los Angeles. That was another one I thought about.
I passed on that one, but I looked at it a while. My big plus money tonight.
Okay.
Laid the goal in the half with the Canucks plus 195 at Seattle.
See? I had it wrote down and I had it in the queue to bet and I didn't do it.
Yeah. This is a bounce. Like we talked about, like the bounce back spots a lot of times for horses. This is a bounce back spot for this Vancouver team who's been phenomenal all year, leading the NHL in plus minus. Get to take on a Seattle team that's actually not that good at home.
Nope.
And you're getting a monster plus number because of the last 3 games for Vancouver.
Yep. I think at plus 195, that makes a ton of sense. Yeah. And like I said, it was one I had it wrote down, had it in the docket, and just didn't pull the trigger. Really, hockey is one of these sports. The final scores don't really reflect how well a team plays. You got to be careful because you look at that last game in Colorado, go, well, they got beat 3-1 to Colorado. Well, Colorado's very good, number one. And number two, if you watch the game, Vancouver dominated the game and got beat. So if they bring that game to Seattle, they're not losing tonight.
The game before that, they lost 10-7 to the Wild, but they were up 5-2 heading into the third period, and they gave up 6 goals in like 5.5 minutes at one stretch, including multiple empty netters. Like that score is not exactly indicative of how that game went either.
No, that was the weirdest game I've ever watched in my life. Vancouver was getting ready to run away with that. Well, they had ran away with it. I don't know what happened. I can't explain that one. That's unexplainable.
The Wild team that doesn't score all that often either.
I know that's the thing. Like, if you told me who's going to score 10 goals tonight, the Wild would be like 30 on the 30 list, or at least 28th.
I had 3 hat tricks in one game. Just crazy stuff. I mean, I'm surprised there were any hats left for the third one that we had that we got to see them thrown on the ice there. When I think it was Kirill scored the third hat or the final hat trick with an empty netter with like 10 seconds left, something like that. And there were still hats raining down from that stance.
Crazy, isn't it? Gotta love hockey, man. They don't run out of hats. Come on.
All right, that's going to be it for us here. Aaron, heading to Oaklawn for the weekend. Make sure you're checking out the Racing Dudes Twitter feed for all the updates there. We've got action from Gulfstream Park, Sanity, all over the country today or this weekend. And we got the Saudi Cup as well. That should be a fun one too. Make sure you're checking out YouTube /Racing Dudes as well for video preps for all the stakes races. Aaron, you mentioned have you guys already taped blinkers off?
Yes, Blinkers Off is done. That's in the docket there. You can go check that out. And by the way, one last thing, Husker Butch is running Sunday in the first race at Oaklawn. So go to the Rebel, stick around for Sunday. We'll get our picture taken if he wins, big if, but we will. But here's the good news. He got second last time out in the same type of race at Oaklawn. So we at least have some hope that we can win this race. We're 4-1.
So back in for a tag. Are you worried you will no longer be the owner of Husker Butch at the end of Sunday?
Worry would not be the right word. I am excited that I might not be the owner of Husker Butch.
Cautiously optimistic you'll no longer be the owner of Husker Butch.
I was told that some people looked at him last time out when he was in for 20, and I think now that he's shown, hey, he can run at 20K level, this could be it.
This could be it.
Yep.
Well, best of luck to you and Husker Butch on Sunday, and everybody in the chat and listening to this over podcast form with all of your bets over the weekend. We'll be back on Monday to recap this wonderful day of racing from Oaklawn, as well as the Saudi Cup and everything else going on in the horse racing world. Aaron, thank you very much for joining us. Appreciate it. Always a pleasure to have you on here. Anything else you want to plug before we take off?
No, I'm good. I think we've done all the plugging we can do, Somich?
I love it. Hey, whoa. All right, we're out of here on that.
The Magic Mike Show, where you hear the experts speak. The Magic Mike Show. Tune into the show every week. The Magic Mike Show. You can trust the show is the bomb because it's being brought to you by RacingDudes.com.